Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Welcome back to Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network on this Friday evening here in South Carolina. Will Pelagic along with Professor Tom Hayes. Of course, Phil Kornblut, as we told you earlier, on assignment this weekend. He'll be back with us on Monday for his Hall of Fame award that he will get, the Herman Helms Media Excellence Award, which will go to him on Monday. We'll be live there broadcasting from the event in the Convention Center in the capital city. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. South Carolina and Missouri underway right now, scoreless in the opening inning. One thing we do have to tell you, no TJ Hopkins in the lineup for South Carolina, again, nursing that back injury that he suffered against Ole Miss. He did not play Wednesday night against County Charleston. Noah Campbell is replacing him in the lineup and also in the field, in left field. He's been kind of taken aside, not necessarily playing as much lately after the resurgence of Hopkins. They are playing with Hunter Taylor at catcher. Jacob Olson is in center field in the spot where Hopkins normally would be. Carlos Cortez is playing in right field. Madison Stokes DHing. And, of course, on the mound is Logan Chapman. Matt Williams plays the field at first base. Chapman has gotten the first two out here in the opening inning, and he's now gotten through the opening inning after a pair of strikeouts around a ground out. Clemson, a 4-0 deficit right now, as the Governors of Austin Peay have plated 2 in the opening inning and 2 in the second. They lead the Tigers 4-0 right now at Clemson. So maybe a little bit of a haze over the Clemson Tigers there, Pro.
Yes, the Governor's using their veto power right now.
Yeah,
it was bad.
That was very bad. That's garbage. From bad analogies to birdies and bogeys with our friend George Bryan III, who joins us here for his usual Friday spot. He is at one of my favorite golf courses in America. That is the TPC at Sawgrass. George, thanks so much for joining us. How are things?
Well, I'm so glad it's your favorite course, because right this minute, I cannot lie. You're probably going to have to drag me through this one. I'll just put it this way. This will not be my favorite. Wesley, it just beat Wesley up. He bogeyed the last 2 holes. He is going to miss the cut by at least a shot. And so right now I'm healing up myself. And hey, you tell me why this is your favorite sport.
I think it's the most, again, from the standpoint of I've never played it, but I just think that it is as the closest thing to a spectator-friendly course, or at least a course that is built around the spectator. And I think that the game of golf kind of needs more of that architecture in mind when they're developing these courses. I don't know how you feel.
Nope, what a great start. See, I'm healed now. I'm ready to go, and I completely agree with you that one of the cool things about it, by the way, I was exaggerating.
Of course.
It's more fun. It's more fun to look at. I don't know about playing. I'm watching Webb Simpson doing an interview right now, and I'll tell you what, Webb loves it. And the cool thing, you're right, we can see much more golf this way. Not a little bit more, but way more. And from that standpoint, I think it's spectacular. It does look a lot more fun to play from my perspective. Although I haven't played the redo, I would look forward to it. And this spot, by the way, is only possible if Randolph Smith and Grant Thornton, they have a booth sponsor. Their sponsors right on number 18 green. Otherwise, I would be escorted off the property, as I almost was last week in Vancouver Island. The rules official let me off because I was a dad.
That's good. Well, we're happy that you were able to use somewhat executive privilege. You mentioned Webb Simpson with his record-breaking 63, 15 under par. What can you tell us about his round and why his game is suited for this course?
Well, Webb drives it. He's a great ball striker. And by the way, I think the world of this young man. He handles himself wonderfully. He's a great representative, not just for the game of golf, but the community and just mankind. This guy is spectacular. And hey, this place is perfect for him. You've got to control your golf ball, and his putter is on fire, and that's the only thing that's been missing from his game in recent years since they eliminated the belly putter or the so-called belly putter, and now he's back, and I'm a big fan of his. And I did not watch any of the round in person, but the cool thing, I could hear him on the golf course. And that is, like you said earlier, that separates what they do here in Jacksonville versus everywhere else. No doubt.
Now, when you struggle during a round, George, I guess the feeling is you can't wait to get up that next morning and the course challenged you. Now you're going to challenge the course. But if you're Webb Simpson and you put together a record-breaking round like this, do you want to just stay out there and bring a sleeping bag and sleep on the course for the night, or do you want to go back and just visualize what you did and think about how mentally you can prepare to repeat that, if possible, the next day?
Cool. I tell you, I miss you, man, but I love mixing it up with you. And once again, you hit it right in the center. You nailed it. If it were up to Webb, he would not be doing that interview. He would be teeing off and continuing on. And he might. He might ask to sleep here. I mean, this guy is some kind of fun, and there's no question that he wants to keep going. And there's no question. When this is the kind of player with the kind of mind that it wouldn't surprise me if he stretched the lead out again tomorrow and the next day. He's really, really, really good. He's great mentally too.
You're talking with George Bryan, birdies and bogeys for this week. He's at TPC Sawgrass at the Players Championship. It seems like there are virtually no repeat winners of this tournament, George. Why is that?
Based on what I saw today, and this is strictly my opinion, but the edges and the bounces, there are just too many edges and too many different bounces. The greens are extremely undulated. It does, based on what I've looked at, it tends to reward, obviously, the best player of the week. But there's so much, I'll just say, the way the ball bounces that goes into it. And I watched a lot of balls bounce. And the unfavorable bounces are really penal, and the ones that are favorable just aren't that good.
if
I didn't see many of those. Although Bryce Garnett, this guy, got to watch out for him. I haven't seen a young man that can putt this good, that controls his ball this well. I would watch out for this young fella. He's on the leaderboard in the top 15 for sure.
He's at tie for 17th. He shot a pair of nice 69s today.
Right. This guy has got game, big game. Every player in this field does, but this guy's pretty special. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does on the weekend. He needs some experience. He won't be a favorite, but somewhere in the future, I'm sure he will.
The way you talk about this course, George, I'm getting the feeling from you that this is not a course where you want to experiment and or take gambles on certain holes.
Well, and you just nailed it, Pro. You probably got me into this corner. Wesley got aggressive on 17. And that's just how he plays. When he's got his game, he is green like on. He just doesn't back off, and he landed it too deep into the green going for the flag and got a very lively bounce and aggressive. The unfortunate thing, it looks to me, aggressive play doesn't get rewarded very much out here. It really does. And there's great penalty for that edge is severe. So,
that hole does not look fun to deal with. I don't know how many tries it would take me to get it actually on the green from there.
You know, it is not that hard for these guys unless you do what Wesley did. Take it too close to that flag with a bounce. And, hey, when they got a wedge in their hand, they don't want a 45-footer. They can't deal with that. So I don't blame him for taking a rip at it. When I was that age, I would have done it. But right now, it's making my heart hurt a little bit.
Appreciate it as always, George. Hit him long, hit him straight, and not as often, my friend.
Really a privilege. Thanks to Grant Thornton, too.
Thank you, sir. And that's George Bryan joining us here on Sports Talk. When we come back, we'll hear from South Carolina softball coach Bev Smith after her Gamecocks advanced to the SEC softball finals in Columbia, Missouri. That's next on Sports Talk.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Welcome back to Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Still scoreless at Founders Park between the Tigers of Missouri and the Gamecocks of South Carolina. Still 4-0. Austin Peay leading Clemson, bottom 2. And Coastal Carolina, again, winners early today over Little Rock, 4-0. Big score in Columbia, Missouri, in favoring the team from Columbia, South Carolina. The Gamecock softball team, a 3-1 winner over Arkansas. Dixie Raleigh, a complete game victory for her. 1 run earned over 7 innings, scattered 5 hits, struck out 7. A big home run as well for Tierra Duffy, 2 RBIs, and the Gamecocks advancing to the SEC softball final for the first time since 2001. We're pleased to be joined by the head coach of Gamecock softball, Beverly Smith. She joins us here on Sports Talk. Coach, congratulations on the victory. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great. Thank you. I'm happy to be with you.
So just from the standpoint of where your team sits, how do you feel sitting now on the precipice of an SEC softball championship? You've played 2 games and you've won rather flawlessly.
Well, I tell you, I'm really proud of this team. It was our goal all season to be in the top 4 seeds so we could have the bye opening round, and we certainly took advantage of it, beating a good Mississippi State team, and then today's game against Arkansas was great too. So I'm just thrilled that we're in the finals with an opportunity to win it tomorrow.
How important is that double bye just from the standpoint of you play 1 less game? I know Arkansas had to play its 3rd consecutive game today, and I'm sure looking at some of their stats over the last couple of days, it kind of took a wear on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a huge advantage because they've got a 2-pitcher rotation. And, you know, it was the 3rd game that they were having to play, and I still had 2 pitchers with fresh arms. So it was a big advantage, and I think it was great for our players to come in and be able to watch the first day and kind of get a feel for the sites and the stadium, and it was great.
You know, when you look at the SEC softball, it looks like just about everybody that plays softball in the SEC has a chance to get into the big dance. But I know you look at one game at a time, but now you can look right at the big ogre of the SEC the last few years, Florida softball team. What does your team have to do to walk off with that trophy tomorrow night?
Well, I tell you, you're right. Playing in the SEC every weekend, you're rolling into a top 25 game. And, you know, Florida and Tennessee are playing right now. Florida's up in the game. We've played both those opponents, and we swept Tennessee and got swept by Florida. So for me, I would love to match up against Florida tomorrow, and to win that game, we're going to have to play some flawless softball. So they've got an excellent pitching staff. We're just going to have to keep their hitters in the park and hopefully string a couple hits of our own together.
South Carolina softball coach Beverly Smith joining us here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, as they get ready for the SEC softball final tomorrow at Mizzou Softball Stadium in Columbia, Mo. How much of your success this season, Coach, has been because of, you know, the mix of upperclassmen and freshmen that are contributing? Kind of, you have that right mix, it seems, for the first time in a while.
Yeah, we're a lot more athletic for sure. We've got a lot of talent. A lot of our talent is young and inexperienced, and I think our seniors have led the way of just paving the way. But the best thing about this team is that there's no superstar, truthfully. We're just a very balanced attack. I think the best thing we do is our defense, and our pitchers trust the defense. So our pitchers have just honestly put the ball in the zone and let people swing, and our defense pick it up. And then, and a perfect example is today. You know, we had Dixie Raleigh start the game and win it for us. And Tierra Duffy, who's hitting out of the 8-hole, hits a 2-run home run. But yesterday it was Alyssa Kumiyama, a freshman, who hit it. And you're just constantly hearing a different name every day in the box score. So I think it's just a real balanced attack that we have, and we know that anybody in our team is capable of winning games for us.
Well, what about the intangibles? Because you don't get this far without having chemistry, because any game you play with a ball and a bat, I figure offensively, you have to call it what it is. And it's a game of failure because you're going to put out more than you hit. So you got to have those people in the dugout that can pick you up when you're down and really pat you on the back when you're up. So talk about the chemistry of this team as it has developed throughout the season.
Well, I think that's one thing. Everyone keeps saying what's different this year, what's different. And, you know, one thing that we have done differently, we've spent a lot of time on our mental approach and our mental game. We have a sports psychologist that the athletic department has hired named Dave Ritucci. We call him Dr. Dave. And I think he's done a great job in terms of building a kind of a warrior mindset, if you will, to handle all the failures that we know are coming and how to bounce back from adversity. And I think it's really created a culture of just a ton of confidence and belief in each other. And I think that has shown through this season. And then the other big thing is I just believe that everybody's doing their job. And if you've watched any of the games on the SEC network, I have to give some credit to a senior, Jordan Augustus, who wrapped Laura Rutledge in toilet paper. I don't know.
Yes, we saw that.
The in-game interview.
Yes, we saw that. That was pretty. What? Explain that. Explain what the deal is with that.
Well, she called it rally toilet paper, and like I said, she wrapped us in it during the in-game interview. You can't do anything about it, but you know, here's a senior who honestly can't be on the field. She's hurt right now, so she's just doing whatever she can to help this team, and she's been the one to get rallies started in the dugout. She'll call a group meeting in the dugout. She, you know, sets the bats on fire, whatever. It just keeps the team loose. And I think that's part of the thing too, is the team really plays well when they're loose, and we've got people that are just living up to their role and doing what they can do to help us win. Well,
knowing the geography of Columbia, Missouri, as well as I do, just go right down Providence. There's a high V at the corner of Providence and Nifong. You can get some double ply at the high V there, so you have plenty for tomorrow.
Yeah, I said we didn't travel with any toilet paper, so I'm pretty sure we owe Missouri toilet paper. I don't know where it came from.
It probably do, as far as that goes. I asked you this question when we spoke earlier in the year, but now that it could be happening, it could be on the precipice of happening, what would it mean again, as we said, to host a regional at Beckham Field if, in fact, your name is called among the top 16 national seeds when the SEC softball or when the NCAA softball selection show happens here?
Yeah, that has been one of our goals all season long, to be a top 16 seed and to host. I really think we're going to hear our name called. It's Sunday night at 10 p.m. And I think we've done everything we can do outside of just hearing the committee say it. I feel certain that we'll be a top 16 seed. And, you know, maybe we go win this thing tomorrow. We could be a top 8. I don't know. But certainly I'm excited to have other teams come to Columbia and experience what a beautiful stadium we have. And I'm hoping Gamecock fans will fill the place and give us a great environment.
Do you go back to the sophomore for the championship game, or do you tab the freshman?
I think we're going to go with the freshman tomorrow.
Really?
She's got a fresh arm, and you know, it's a great thing. I've got 3 great options, but Kelsey O hasn't thrown yet. She's fresh. And I know if I need to lean on KK Drochar or Dixie again, they'll be available. But we always say championship day, all hands on deck. So
Absolutely.
Everybody will be ready.
I got to say, you know, it's very hard to remember a staff of 3 pitchers. Usually, again, like you said, it's just usually one hoss and then everybody else who kind of looks at them. This is something that's an embarrassment of riches for you guys.
Yeah, it has really been a nice treat. And like I said, our defense has been so strong that they don't care who's on the mound. And that's really nice from a coaching perspective, is I've got so much confidence in all 3 of them, and so does the team. So all of them have done great just going in and doing their job. And Dixie was living proof of that today. She had a great outing.
Well, it's on ESPN2 tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern time, again from Mizzou Softball Stadium in Columbia, Mo. You'll be facing either Florida or Tennessee. Florida currently leads Tennessee 7-2. That game in the 4th inning and airing on ESPNU. Beverly Smith, Gamecock softball coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
That's Bev Smith joining us here on Sports Talk. And again, you know, I love softball. I've covered it basically my entire radio career. I like that we're able to talk about a successful softball team here.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time. I thought Bev Smith was a solid hire. And with the new digs they have, you know, the novelty, the new car smell is still not off that stadium yet. So this is a team that really is just scratching the surface as far as what they can do in recruiting. following this success.
Speaking of new car smell, we'll talk about the cars, the NASCARs, next with Monty Dutton and the Bull Monty on NASCAR.
The latest on this weekend's race is around the corner. The full Monty on NASCAR is next. This is Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We'll give you an update on the Friday Night Baseball here in just a moment. But first off, it's time to go racing with a NASCAR gentleman in Kansas this weekend at Kansas Motor Speedway. Our friend Monty Dutton joins us for his usual Friday spot here on Sports Talk. What's going on, Monty? How are you?
I've actually had a fairly rough day, but none of it's interesting to people out there in radio land. I've been trying to settle in and watch a little bit of this coverage on television, and I think that Kansas is a race that will probably be won by one of the drivers who has dominated the season to date because it's sort of a typical 1.5 mile track. Last year, Martin Truex, I believe, won both races there. But I tend to think that I have the opposite of most people. I think when you win 2 straight, the law of averages turn against you. And so I think that each, winning 2 in a row, you're less likely to win 3. Win 3 in a row, you're less likely to win 4. If you win 10 in a row, we'll talk. but saying I think that right now the balance of power has shifted, and the Fords seem to have an advantage, and that advantage is most evident at an intermediate track. And so, I think that they do have an edge, and so I think that the odds favor them. But I mean, that edge is not. The fact is, I think I just looked at the end of 2 rounds qualifying, Fords win 9 of the top 12 positions, so that's a significant factor. But Kyle Busch is there, and Truex is there, and fast Toyotas. And so I just, my basic feeling is, I figure a Ford's probably going to win. So I'm sort of hoping that it's a young guy, because in this year with all the young drivers taking over, it's been a big flop. And I'd like to see one of them, like a Ryan Blaney, who was first and second, first 2 qualifying sessions. I'd like to see somebody like him win the race.
So you're saying,
or a Chevy, any Chevy.
Ooh. What? What did you say?
I said, or a Chevy, any Chevy.
Oh, okay,
They
gotcha.
won Daytona 500 and lost 10 straight.
Gotcha. I didn't hear what you said. It sounded like you said something different, but I just wanted to clarify with what you said.
Yeah, well, I apologize. I hope it wasn't untoward.
It was fun. It's fun. You just scared me there for a minute, Monty.
No, I said a Chevy, any Chevy.
Gotcha. Okay. When you have a situation where you have only a certain amount of drivers, only 2 drivers really with multiple wins, in Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, and you mentioned the fact that the sport, while it has the young blood, you said it's kind of flopped. Is that create a good environment for the sport, or like you said, does the fresh blood need to really kind of step things up? Or if you can put a protagonist-antagonist situation going on with Kyle versus Kevin, do you think that could provide a very interesting storyline week to week?
I think that what the sport probably would benefit from more than anything else would be one talented young driver, a person like Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott, to step up. I think that's what really makes it. I think Harvick and Busch is they've sort of buried the hatchet from their past differences, and they're both veterans, and so I don't think it benefits the sport if every race has a different winner. I think a superstar must develop from very impressive success, like what Truex had last year, or the Gordon and Johnson glory years. I think that you have to have some, it wouldn't be, it would have been beneficial for the sport if Dale Earnhardt Jr. had just once had one of those years. But, I don't think it's particularly concerning that a couple of drivers have multiple victories. At least that means there's a story. If there have been 11 races and 11 different winners, it would be the other extreme and probably worse. But it is still early in the season, and there is a lot of change that can happen between now and then. And the fact is, no matter how much they try to incentivize individual races with stages and points and all those things, really, you don't have to be. You just have to be good enough to be in the chase. You have to be good in the chase. So you always have to be wary of people who gradually find their edge, win a race in the summertime and then start finishing in the top 5 every week. Because no matter what they do, nowadays, the final 10 races are really, 80% of what matters.
You talk about a superstar, a guy who, lack of a better term, Marty, is used the term a tease, is Kevin Harvick. I mean, this guy looks like he's got 10,000 second-place finishes. He's got a solid ride, a solid crew. Could you put your finger on one or two things that's missing for him not to make a big run through a season?
Well, he's doing that right now, but it is young, and he has also won a championship in the past. So, I think that Kevin Harvick is going to go down in history as a very good driver. He's not going to go down as one of the 10 that come to mind in any argument over who the best ever was, or the 5 that way. But he's had a very creditable career along the lines of Matt Kenseth, who's coming back this weekend, and Terry Labonte, and probably Bobby Labonte. And, I mean, just kind of a driver's driver who has grown up a lot over the years. And right now he's sort of at the peak and at the point where he starts to fall off. I've always said that the drivers who stay proficient to an old age are the ones that stay active. And I think that Harvick is one of those guys who, into his 40s, his golden age has been extended by the fact that he has kept on racing on Saturday races and doing things like that, and he stayed active. And so I really do think that extends a driver's prime. So I think he falls in the category that this may be both his best chance. He has a great chance at another championship, and there's also an excellent chance that it'll be his last chance at a championship. That's about where he is on the age chart.
What are your thoughts about the report about the France family possibly selling NASCAR?
Well, one of my most tried and true through trial and error rules is if there's rumors flying and nobody will deny them, then there's probably there's probably something to it. And so, NASCAR said they've had no comment on the matter. They could have said, that's a lie. They didn't. And so it seems like to me that this is either something is imminent or we're going to see what's out there. Or I think in hindsight, 2 weeks ago when NASCAR all of a sudden bought ARCA,
right?
It seems like to me they might have been sort of setting the standard to have a short track national program and network in place. They once had that and it dwindled away to nothing, so they shored that end up by saying, we really are stock car racing nationwide. I think that in hindsight, it looks like that was an acquisition to make the whole product look better. And so I do think that there's something to it, and I think on the one hand, there are probably people trying to get an investment group together that includes people who have made a great deal of money on the sport. As a matter of fact, whether it's true or not, I bet if I found Felix Sabates right now, he would tell me he was in on something, whether he is or not. Because Felix loves his name in the paper, and I'm surprised it hadn't shown up yet. But I'm saying that Roger Penske, Rick Hendrick, Bruton Smith's family. On the other hand, I think if it's a completely outside source, some communications company, then it's probably someone who's looking for a deal, thinking NASCAR is falling way down. We can get them at rock bottom and make money when they pick things back up. So that's basically my outlook.
I've got like 15 seconds real quick. Give me a winner tomorrow night.
Oh, I was going to pick, just for the hell of it, I'm going to say a young driver has to win soon. So I'm going to pick Ryan Blaney.
Thank you, Monty. Appreciate the time. We'll come back, update the Friday Night Baseball, and a couple news and notes before we close up shop.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
Pleasure to talk to Monty Dutton. Thanks also for taking about 7 years off the end of my life.
You get it back.
It's not his fault. He screamed it into the phone, Chevy, and Chevy has a certain vowel sound or consonant sound that sounds like a word that usually is paired with the word shinola.
Oh yeah.
And anyway.
Hey, that gets the endorphins going.
Yeah,
what can I say?
Yeah, I have to say, I'm awake now. I'm awake now. South Carolina's bats, though, are asleep against Missouri.
Both teams' bats are asleep.
No score between the two. They play in the bottom of the third inning. Matt Williams just struck out swinging here in the bottom of the third inning. So sitting right now, both teams with one hit. Clemson has gotten themselves on the board, though. 4-2. Austin P leads. The Governors lead the Tigers 4-2 in the top of the fourth inning. You want to guess how Clemson got their runs?
What, Beer 2-run homer again?
Yes, exactly.
Again, as I told people, the key thing with beer is
the key thing with beer is to drink a lot of it.
Not to be frustrated. Because,
can you tell it's Friday, folks?
Yes, we can. It sounds like you're thinking of anticipating doing something after the show.
True.
But the thing is, he's going to see maybe two good pitches in that bat.
Right.
And the great hitters, once they figure it out and not get frustrated, they just stand there with a plan to when they see it, that's what they're going for. I never thought about that until I really studied. And people will say, well, he was on the roids and everything. But remember the 70-plus home run season that Barry Bonds had?
73 home run year, yeah.
It was almost looked like he said, well, I'm going to get one good pitch at bat, and I'm going to be right there when it comes to me.
Right.
And lo and behold, just about looks like almost every time he teed off on it. It was just incredible.
Here's the thing about Bonds. Again, and this is kind of how I feel about steroids. Baseball is such a hand-eye coordination game anyway.
Yes.
So, like, what do steroids do?
Other
than give you the ability to recover and make that happen, but it doesn't turn somebody who's not an athlete into an athlete.
No,
it maybe makes a certain athlete
stronger,
superhuman, with the kind of a strength and ability to recover and things like that. But like, that's the thing I don't understand with people who hate steroids. Like, I want my athletes to be as well fit, well toned, and well intentioned and well fortified as much as possible. Like, I've never had a problem with steroids. I never have. As long as we're talking about things that are tested and safe.
That's what I was talking about, because you get the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
You end up waking up about 10, 15 years later with cancer.
Right.
You got to watch yourself. The key point is when they did that study, the Balco in San Francisco, I forgot who the infielder was because people were talking about cheating. I said, well, the recovery and power may be enhanced as far as that's concerned. But I forgot what the guy's name was. He was a middle infielder for the Giants. He was never mentioned in the Balco, but his name was on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And I said the only reason they don't mention him is because he was a 220 hitter before he was on the list.
Rich Aurelia, was it?
It might have been.
Yeah.
But he was also a 220 hitter after he was on the list.
Jeff Kent. Was it Jeff Kent?
Yeah, it might have been after he was on the list, which made me think they need to throw that out because that hurts their argument that everybody is enhanced.
Oh, yeah.
By it.
Well, it's the weirdest thing. Again, it's just like, the reason behind leaving steroids out of sports is nothing to do with the safety. If it was about the safety, that's one thing. I understand that argument and all. But if we're talking about just from the standpoint of strict performance enhancement, if it's safe or something safe that can be taken to promote recovery for your muscles and stuff like that, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want athletes to be able to do that? there's no unfair advantage if they're all using it. And again, it's not going to take an athlete or somebody who's not athletic like me and turn me into a 300 hitter. I'm sorry, it's just not. I could have taken every pill in the freaking world. I couldn't hit a curveball.
And also, here's the other key. It depends on what sports you play.
Right.
For instance, because it's such a statistical driven sport, baseball and the use of steroids is almost equivalent to blasphemy.
Right.
Versus that whole offensive line that Pittsburgh had in the 70s were on the stuff. I don't see Pittsburgh giving back those Super Bowl trophies, do you?
Well, again, it's people have this selective morality. I mean, this is also the same thing that got them in trouble with baseball. And now we have sports like the NBA who are trying to go out there and, possibly monetize legalized sports gambling when it eventually comes and is legislated for here possibly in the coming days. It's fun. It's just like, you know what? People watch the games to gamble. I don't personally, but at least in the standpoint of where I sit, it's something that they're missing out on a revenue stream.
It just popped in my head. The infielder that was on that list, Marvin Bernard.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, Marvin Bernard.
That is correct.
That was the name. That was
800-956-7266. Jody's calling from Columbia. We've apparently struck a nerve. Go ahead, Jody. What's up?
You didn't strike a nerve. That's okay. Listen here. Do y'all remember when steroids went illegal?
Do we remember when they weren't?
It's when Ben Johnson beat what's-his-face in the 100-meter dash in the Olympics.
Yes.
Now, I did a master's in sports, and I studied this. They're using the same steroids these guys are using for performance enhancing, for chronic wasting disease and all kinds of stuff like that.
Right.
So what's the difference between somebody taking, under a doctor's supervision, steroids as a professional athlete and, say, Tiger Woods getting Lasix to make his putting better?
Exactly. And here's the thing, we're talking about stuff like blood doping, like in cycling. That to me is cheating. But if we're like stuff that you could take during the performance, stuff like that, not performance, but during the competition, that seems nefarious. But when it comes to training and things that'll help you train, I think that there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, in blood doping, that's their own blood that they're putting back in.
Right.
I mean, they're taking out their own blood and putting their own oxygenated blood back in their body.
Right.
So, I mean, how is that cheating? It's their own blood.
I mean, you're getting more oxygen. Yeah.
Yeah, my point is this, I guess. If you're a professional and it's done under doctor's supervision, I think it's kind of silly to say, well, you can do this, but you can't do steroids when it's proven to actually help injuries and all like that with the proper dosages and under the proper supervision.
Appreciate the call, Jody. Very lucid point to conclude the week on.
Now, I'm not so certain what scares me more, because with certain medical things, I've had to take steroids before, but that was, for to get aggressive with an ailment. But the one thing I will not do and won't do that they say is safe is I'm not getting in one of them freeze cabinets.
No cryogenic chamber for you?
No, there is no way I'm getting into one of those things.
They had one of those on the Mizzou campus, and they asked me if I wanted to go in it. I said, nope. No, just like because they were touring us around the athletics. So I'm like, nope, no cryo chamber for me. Too cold. No thanks.
No way in the world. I'll stick my head in the freezer, but that's about as cold as I'm getting.
Stick with Sports Talk SC over this weekend. We'll be at every one of the South Carolina-Missouri games here at Founders Park, so we'll be updating you on that. Still no score there. Governors of Austin Peay have extended their lead 5-2 over Clemson. They're in the fourth. We'll see if the Tigers can come back in that one. And also, again, Coastal Carolina 4-0 win over Little Rock earlier today. Phil Kornblut is back on Monday, where we will be honoring him with the Herman Helms Media Excellence Award from the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. Until then, we'll talk to you Monday. Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, Phil Kornblut saying so long.